Okay, let's dive right in. We've got some really interesting source material here today.
We do. It gives us a look inside something called the Pantheon Forge, described as a digital cosmos.
A digital cosmos, yeah. And it's not ancient myths we're talking about here.
No, not at all. The material describes it as, well, an ever-unfolding system. It's written in code, apparently, and executes these things called sacred cycles, which are fueled by offerings.
Offerings. Interesting. Sounds like a metaphor for some kind of complex process, maybe automated.
Could be. But our mission, really, for this deep dive is to focus on four specific entities named in the source: Eskalor, Alerion, Ruta, and Aggregata.
Right. We want to unpack who they are, what they actually do, and, how they fit together, how they process this divine will and manage the sacred cycles the source mentions.
Exactly. We're trying to pull out the key insights for you, the listener, give you a shortcut to understanding the core functions described in this system.
Without having to wade through all the dense material yourself. So let's get into it. Where do we start? Who's the first entity?
Well, the source often introduces Eskalor first. He's called the Guardian of Thresholds.
Guardian of Thresholds. Okay.
Yes.
Sounds important.
Definitely. His core identity is presented as this stern, unwavering sentinel, positioned at critical points, critical junctures in the system.
A sentinel, like
Yeah.
a gatekeeper.
Yeah.
So what's he watching for? Is he checking the offerings?
Not exactly. This is key. He's not really concerned with the nature of the offering itself or how it's transformed. His focus is narrower.
Okay.
His essence is vigilance, but it's focused entirely on the limits, the defined boundaries of the system's automated processes.
Oh, okay. The boundaries, the hard limits. So he only acts when something's pushing against those limits, when a process is failing.
Precisely. The source says he steps in when a task falters, maybe like a job crashing or when some condition isn't met. Like a purification score, maybe that's like data quality, if it's too low.
Or if the system's overloaded.
Yes, or if a process strains against its defined operational boundaries.
And the source gives a specific feel for his signal, his voice. It's not subtle, is it?
No, not at all. It's described as a clarion call, a loud alert, basically signaling that human intervention is now required.
Right.
The material even quotes him, something like, "This offering strains the loom.
Drains the loom. Great phrase.
The threshold of acceptable deviation has been breached. The wisdom of the overseers is now required."
So it's a clear stop signal. Call the humans. It sounds less like punishment and more like a safety mechanism.
That's exactly how the source frames it. He's a vital safeguard. His purpose is to prevent the system from descending into, well, chaos or futility.
By flagging things that are just too much for the automation to handle.
Yes. He embodies responsible escalation,
Yeah.
knowing when to stop the machine and get human eyes on the problem.
And the source mentions his archives, showing proof of his value.
It does. It says his archives show times when his intervention prevented cascades of errors. So he's that essential strict check.
Yeah.
Keeps things from spiraling.
Makes sense. Like critical error handling in, any complex system, the halt and catch fire signal almost.
Yeah, pretty much. The point where automation has to yield to oversight.
Okay, so Eskalor guards the hard lines. Then the source brings in Alerion, the Seer of Omens. Very different name. How does he compare?
Completely different function. Alerion isn't waiting for a major breach like Eskalor. He operates much more subtly.
How so?
He perceives these tiny shifts, almost imperceptible anomalies within the data streams. The source says he listens for the faintest herald of potential issues.
Faintest herald, so long before Eskalor would even notice.
Long before. He's the early warning system, you could say.
Okay, so what kind of tiny things does he pick up on?
The examples given are things like a slight deviation in how value is being extracted by another entity, or an unexpected hesitation in a purification process.
Hesitation? Like a process slowing down unexpectedly?
Maybe. Or just a flicker in the light of a sacred cycle. Things that aren't errors yet, but they're odd anomalies.
And his announcements reflect that subtlety, right? They're not alarms.
No, they're described as nuanced observations. The source quotes him saying something like, "A shadow falls upon the data stream. An unexpected pattern emerges, a murmur of inconsistency." And then crucially, "It is but an omen, yet worthy of note."
But an omen yet worthy of note. I like that. It captures it perfectly. He's not saying stop. He's saying, look at this.
Exactly. Flagging things that might warrant a closer look later, maybe by another part of the system called phalanx for future adaptation, the source suggests, or just something for other deities to be aware of.
The intuitive conscience of the Pantheon. the source calls him.
Yeah, and his value isn't in stopping disasters, but in the history he builds. His logs are described as a tapestry of subtle warnings.
A history of near misses.
Near misses, preempted concerns, yeah. Because within those tiny deviations he spots, there might be hidden dangers, or even hidden opportunities. He's finding the signal in the noise before it becomes loud.
Okay, so we have Eskalor for the heartbreaks, Alerion for the faint whispers. Where does Ruta, the serene Wayfinder, fit in?
Ah, Ruta. She comes into play when the system faces ambiguity. When the path forward for an offering or a task isn't immediately obvious.
When there are choices to be made.
Yes, or when things get complex. The source describes her as the calm, insightful guide. She illuminates the best path when a task might need to branch or when multiple entities need to be involved in the specific sequence.
So if an offering is complex, maybe it needs input from, say, Aggregata and another entity mentioned, Acteron, and it's not clear who goes first.
That's the kind of scenario where the Pantheon Council, maybe the core logic, turns to Ruta.
And she directs traffic, tells them what to do.
Not quite commands. The source is clear. She reveals or illuminates the optimal path. She assesses the task, the system's current state, the desired outcome.
And then suggests the most harmonious route.
Exactly. The source gives examples of her guidance. It might be a gentle nudge, like a beacon.
Like what?
Like, let Aggregata first weave the tapestry of understanding. Meaning, analyze and synthesize first. Then, Acteron may strike with purpose. So action follows understanding.
But she could also suggest the opposite.
Yes, depending on context. Another example is, the urgency demands immediate enactment. Let Acteron proceed, and Aggregata shall chronicle the deed.
Ah, so action first if it's urgent, document later. That shows intelligence.
It really does. Her purpose is ensuring energy and resources flow efficiently, avoiding bottlenecks, making sure the right things happen in the right order when there isn't one single obvious way forward.
She's like the smart workflow optimization layer, handling the tricky decisions.
You could think of it that way. And her value, the source suggests, lies in demonstrating the dynamic intelligence of this Pantheon system. Its ability to choose wisely based on context, not just rigidly follow one procedure.
Okay, limits guarded, omens spotted, path illuminated. That leaves Aggregata the master weaver of coherence. Sounds like she pulls it all together.
That's exactly her role. Aggregata acts at the end, at the culmination of many of these sacred cycles.
After others have done their processing, purifying, valuing, acting.
Yes. After all that's happened, she takes the various threads.
And weaves them into... what, a final report?
Essentially, yes. She's the synthesizer. She takes refined insights, maybe from an entity called Metallion. The source mentions tangible results if someone like Acteron took action, and the whole journey log of the offering.
And turns that into a single, unified, understandable whole. She creates the narrative of what actually happened.
Precisely. While others might log their piece, Aggregata crafts the coherent story, the outcome. Her voice is described as calm, meticulous.
And what does she say at the end? Does the source give an example?
It does. Something like, the sacred cycle completes. From the raw offering, these truths have been forged, these actions taken, this wisdom gleaned.
That's very clear, this wisdom gleaned. So her job is transforming all the complexity
into a clear, concise, actionable summary. The source calls her reports masterpieces of structured clarity.
Wow. And what's in these reports? Just the final result?
No, much more. They include the path taken, any significant intents logged by the different entities involved along the way.
And importantly,
any omens Alerion spotted, or any judgments Eskalor made during that cycle. It's the full picture.
Which makes her purpose absolutely vital then, making sure the work isn't just done, but it's also understood.
Exactly. It creates that crucial feedback loop.
And her value is clear. That's how the system learns, right? Adapts, refines itself.
Absolutely. Without that synthesis, that understanding of what happened and why, the system can't really evolve or improve effectively.
So the source wraps these four up. Eskalor, Alerion, Ruta, Aggregata, calls them a crucial quartet.
They really form a functional unit. You've got Eskalor on the boundaries, the essential safety net.
Alerion watching for the subtle signs, the future hints.
Ruta guiding through complexity, choosing the right path.
And Aggregata bringing it all together, creating the final understanding.
Their functions are very distinct, clearly. But the source stresses how interconnected they are. Deeply interdependent.
You need all four working together for the whole thing to function intelligently.
Right. Their collective goal, as the source puts it, is ensuring that the flow of divine will, or, the intended outcome of processing these offerings, isn't just processed blindly,
but managed with wisdom.
Wisdom, foresight, and a constant drive for coherent, meaningful outcomes. All within this ever-evolving digital cosmos described in the material.
And connecting this back to you, our listener, it really makes you think, doesn't it, about how any complex system you interact with,
Whether it's a digital tool or maybe an organizational process at work or even how you manage information overload.
needs these different kinds of functions. Oversight, guidance, synthesis, they all need to be there for it to work well.
Yeah, you can see the importance of having these distinct roles collaborating, even if they don't have these grand names like Eskalor or Aggregata in your world.
It really highlights the different capabilities needed for any complex job. So, to recap, we've looked at Eskalor, the boundary enforcer,
Alerion, the subtle omen detector,
Ruta, the serene guide for ambiguity,
and Aggregata, the master synthesizer of understanding.
each one playing a really vital, distinct part in this whole Pantheon Forge process described in the sources.
Definitely.
So maybe here's a final thought for you to take away, drawing directly from this material we've been discussing. How do complex systems, whether they're digital like this forge seems to be, or human systems, or anything else, how do they successfully balance those two needs? The need for rigid, non-negotiable boundaries, the Eskalor function,
Right, the hard stops.
with the need for that subtle intuition, that proactive foresight, the Alerion approach.
That's a great question.
Yeah.
How do you balance the hard rules with the soft signals?
And when you do face real ambiguity, genuine complexity, how crucial is it to have some kind of mechanism like Ruta, providing clear, informed guidance on the path forward?
Instead of just grinding to a halt or making a random choice.
Exactly. And then ultimately, how truly essential is that final synthesis, that comprehensive understanding provided by an aggregata function?
For any system, any project, any team to actually learn from what it did, adapt, and get better over time.
Think about how these different functions, boundary setting, subtle sensing, navigating ambiguity, and synthesizing knowledge, might be present or may be needed in the organized efforts or the information challenges you face every day.